Americans, from Unifor to steel workers or la FTQ. We know that people are anxious, and we know that lots of communities are impacted by these tariffs. That's why what we're doing right now is we'll continue to fight against them. We'll make sure also that we continue to negotiate with the Americans a security and trade partnership. The Prime Minister alluded to that earlier today. And at the same time, Dominic LeBlanc, the Minister of U.S.-Canada Trade, was in Washington yesterday. And finally, we know that meanwhile, what we need to do here in Canada is we need to build. We need to create jobs in the country. We need to make sure that ultimately we create a very strong domestic market and we create jobs. And that's what we'll do. We'll make sure to do that through major projects, major infrastructure projects, and we will do that also investing in our defense sector, creating jobs here at home that, of course, will have an impact on the steel and aluminum workers. I will be taking your questions, but before, allow me to say this in French. So, there's lots of noise here in Parliament, lots of action. OK, on recommence. Donc,
so let's start.
Les tarifs qui ont été annoncés par la Maison-Blanche hier
with
sont
the
complètement inacceptables. Ils sont injustes.
Tariffs that were announced by the White House yesterday are completely unacceptable, unjustified, and illegal. So we'll continue to fight in order to make sure to get them removed. And in the meantime, what we're doing is I've had several conversations with many CEOs, whether in steel or aluminum, some 10 files, and conversations with the union also, Unifor, and the FCQ in Quebec. We will continue to fight these tariffs, and at the same time, we'll continue to negotiate, which is why the Prime Minister mentioned earlier today there are negotiations going on partnerships in trade with the United States, and the Minister of Trade, U.S.-Canada Trade, was in Washington yesterday. Our objective is that while we continue to make sure to fight against these tariffs and negotiate, we are at work here in Canada. We must create demand for steel and aluminum here at home. It's fundamental. That's why we need to build. We need major infrastructure projects, and that's why the Prime Ministers in the Saskatoon, with the Premiers, Legault, and all the others. So if we can start many big major projects, we will create jobs in steel and aluminum necessarily, but also in defense, because it's fundamental for us to say at the same time we have security and we are creating jobs at home.
What about the idea of, and by the way, it was Minister Champagne making all that noise.
You said it, I didn't say it. I recognize the voice.
The concept of dollar-for-dollar retaliatory tariffs. At one point in the campaign, the leader, Mark Carney, was talking about that. Why not dollar-for-dollar tariffs today?
So I don't know if it was you or somebody else asked them already the question. It is an important question. We have had really strong counter tariffs against the Americans already. With China and now newly Mexico, we've imposed important counter tariffs. We will make sure that we impose maximum pain to the U.S. while having minimum pain, minimum impact to Canadians. We are looking at different scenarios right now, and we will take a decision, but we need a bit more time right now, not too long. But of course, what is fundamental is we need to make sure that in everything we do, we're able to get to the best deal with the Americans, but at the same time that we're able to create and protect jobs here in the country.
Producers say that steel producers say that fast-tracking infrastructure projects is a medium-term fix, not a short-term one, and we need something done immediately. They suggested
that's a very good question.
Hiking tariffs on China as a result and other unfair traders.
No, that's a very good question. Why? Because that's exactly what lots of CEOs have said, because obviously lots of companies will have to decide what they do in their coming weeks. Tomorrow is Steel Day on the Hill. I will be meeting with the heads of many steel organizations here in the country. Yesterday, the Prime Minister and I had a meeting with the global CEO of ArcelorMittal, who's owns the ArcelorMittal Dofasco steel in Hamilton, and also the Contrecoeur plant in Quebec. These were exactly the conversations. How can we make sure that we protect jobs? How we make sure that we protect investments? And how can we be in solution mode at the government level? So I'm willing to have these conversations with these decision makers, because we need to make sure to be there as a government to ultimately protect the jobs.
S'il vous plaît, pour les contre-tarifs, pourquoi ne pas projeter de la force? Pourquoi attendre?
Why wait? Why not? Because we already have several counter tariffs. It's already the case. We have more than the majority of the whole world, and our objective is to continue to apply pressure, but at the same time, we're in a position where we want to make sure that we don't affect people here in Canada too much. So we're trying to be very, very strategic.